Most people never notice a great carpet seam, but if it's placed in the wrong spot, it can become one of the first things you see every day. Hi, I'm Bryan, the third generation owner of Weaver Carpets. And if you are replacing carpet in the Denver metro area or anywhere along the Front Range, seam placement is one of the most important parts of the installation process. A lot of people think carpet seams are just part of the job, and that is true. Sometimes they are necessary. But the real question is not just whether there will be a seam, it's where that seam is actually placed. When seam placement is done well, it blends in better, performs better, and holds up better over time. When it's done poorly, it can stand out visually and wear faster in the wrong parts of the room. One of the first things that we look at is foot traffic. You want to think about how people actually walk through the space every day. In high traffic areas like hallways, entryways, stairwells, or the main pathways through a living room, a poorly placed seam can take a lot of repeated stress. Over time, that does matter, especially in busy homes here in Denver, Littleton, Highlands Ranch, Castle Rock, Arvada, and all across the Front Range. We always want to place seams with real life use in mind, not just what looks easiest on installation day. The next thing we consider is lighting. Lighting can make a seam much more noticeable depending on where it falls in the room. And natural light is a big factor. That's why window placement matters so much. If sunlight is coming in from a certain direction, it can highlight a seam and make it more visible than it needs to be. So we look at where the windows are, how the light moves through the room, and how that seam will work during the day, not just in one moment. We also think about furniture placement. Sometimes a seam can be positioned in a way that works better with the room layout and is less noticeable around larger pieces of furniture like sofas, beds, and/or sectionals. But that has to be thought through carefully. You don't want to place a seam in a bad location just because a piece of furniture might cover it right now. Furniture can always move later, but the seam placement stays the same. That's why experience matters. Here at Weaver Carpets, we don't just help homeowners choose the right carpet. We think through the full installation, traffic patterns, lighting, windows, furniture, and how the room is actually used every day. Since 1958, as a third-generation family business, we know it's the small details that make the biggest difference in how your carpet looks and performs for years to come. So if you're shopping for carpet in the Denver metro area or anywhere along the Front Range, don't just ask about style, color, or price. Ask about seam placement. Because when it's done right, you probably won't notice it at all. And honestly, that's exactly the point.